Sorry about the lost connection there. The internet is not too strong here. Um, to get back on track with some of the questions I was asking, uh, what's something that growing up you did for fun?
We rode our bikes and around the neighborhood. We used to play croquet a lot. Everybody was a very popular game. We all get out and you got to remember our neighborhood had so many children. Everybody had two or three or four kids in the neighborhood, and every night we'd play baseball or go to one person's house or another person's house, and there would be 8 or 10 of us easy playing these games. We just had a lot of fun things going on.
Uh, um, do you remember what your first car was?
I didn't have my own car until probably my Saturn that I'm driving now. No, actually, I um, drove my folks' car when I was a kid. Didn't have a car of my own, which was pretty normal.
Hmm.
Um, I usually got the car, have the car whenever I wanted it, though, so I didn't feel like I was deprived or anything. I drove a lot.
Okay, another important question relating to cars. What was the price of gas when you first started driving?
It was less than a gallon, less than $1 a gallon for sure. I think it was probably around 60 cents a gallon. I remember when I was young, when we still lived in Indiana and my dad worked at a gas station, I've seen gas as cheap as 19 cents a gallon.
Do you uh, remember moving from Indiana to Illinois and what that was like?
Yeah, yeah, it was a big move. My dad had been a school teacher and he switched careers and became a sales representative for a textbook company. And we moved from central Indiana to central Illinois. And it was just as I was starting high school, so it was kind of a big deal for me. I left all my friends behind and um, had to make new ones.
Yeah. Um, what high school did you go to?
I went to Champaign Central High School, which at the time was just Champaign High School. They hadn't split into two high schools yet.
Uh, throughout your life, have you had many opportunities to travel to places besides maybe Indiana and Illinois?
Well, I didn't travel much until I went to England. That's the furthest I've ever been. After Zachary was in the military, I took 3 trips to England. And most of the time, travel's been related to doing things with the kids or going to visit them. I traveled to Ann Arbor quite a bit, and St. Paul and Georgia. So even made a trip out to South Dakota a couple of times with my sister because my nephew's out there. We visited him, so that's the
Hmm.
traveling I've done. It's been family related.
You mentioned there that you have a sister. How many siblings did you have growing up?
She's all I got, just one sister.
Do you recall what it was like growing up with your sister?
Yeah, I was mean to her. I was the older sister and I picked on her a lot. But we're friends now.
Can you recall any stories or moments that you can specifically remember of being mean to your little sister?
Well, yeah, I used to kind of pick on her because she was so scared of my mom. She wanted to be the good kid all the time, and I felt like she needed to loosen up a little bit. So I used to try to help her have a better outlook on life. I would threaten her a lot when nobody was around, and then deny it when she complained to my mom.
Um, One thing I was curious about was a lot of people growing up experience trouble with things like alcohol and drugs. Have you had any experiences with that personally in your life?
I've known some kids that I grew up with that had some serious problems, particularly with alcohol. One of my friends had a boyfriend that was a serious alcoholic in high school. He used to bring a bottle to school and hide it in his locker every day. I don't think anything good came of that. Of course, back in the 60s, everybody was smoking marijuana and taking LSD, and I never did that. I always thought it was kind of stupid. But I think it's worse today. I think the marijuana is probably worse, and I don't know. It's just not as much. It was in the 60s, it was just such a rebellious thing. We just did it. People just did it to, oh, nobody knows I'm doing this, you know. But nowadays, people do it just to lose their minds, I think.
Hmm. So how do you feel about things like, I think it's Colorado legalizing marijuana?
Well, I guess we'll see what happens. I don't know. I've heard all the arguments both ways that it we use too much resources of our police departments and stuff pursuing people who are just harmlessly smoking marijuana. I've also seen that, you know, marijuana can be a really bad thing, causing car accidents. People are, you know, creates issues. So I don't know. I guess it's a personal choice.
Okay. Um, Religiously growing up, do you recall some religious experiences or your dealings with faith?
Well, we were Lutherans, of course. My mom was an organist at the church, so we did spend a lot of time there. She was always going to practice a couple times a week. She'd go over and practice for the next Sunday. My dad was an usher and an elder in the church, so yeah, a lot of our family experiences revolved around the church. They actually helped to found a small church in the little town in Indiana where we were growing up. So yeah, we were real close to the church that way. Really an important part